watching the Binge List, a show in which I help you decide what to watch across 8 streaming platforms. You can get access to all of them with the Tata Sky Binge subscription. Figuring out what to see can be very time-consuming, but spending 10 minutes with me will save you a lot of heartburn later. My first pick is the Comey Rule, streaming on Voot Select. The Comey Rule is a 2-part mini-series based on the book A Higher Loyalty, Truth, Lies and Leadership, written by former FBI Director James Comey. The series tracks FBI's investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails and Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. The decisions made by Comey impeded Hillary's campaign, paving the way for Trump to become president. 3 months after taking office, Trump fired Comey, citing his mishandling of the email investigation, which in fact benefited Trump. The president wrote a letter saying that he, along with the Department of Justice, believed that Comey was not able to effectively lead the bureau. The Comey Rule is obviously Comey's perspective on the events that transpired. But it makes you wonder how history might have been altered if Comey had been more Machiavellian. If he had understood that integrity and principles have little meaning when the opponent is Donald Trump. Actor Scoot McNairy plays Deputy Attorney General Ron Rosenstein, who wrote the memo recommending Comey's firing. Director Billy Ray, who also wrote the series, uses Rosenstein as a quasi-narrator. Rosenstein introduces Comey as a showboat. Members of Comey's team warn him of the possible outcomes of his decisions, but Comey continues to believe that everything will be fine. Comey's fault is his self-righteousness. This is a man undone by decency and his desire to do the right thing. Jeff Daniels is well cast as Comey. His imposing height is offset by his kindly face. His job requires that he reveal as little as possible. He can't even share what he's doing with his wife, who happens to be a Hillary supporter. Comey's expressions might be minimal, but his tightly clenched hands reveal his frustration and agony. And against him stands Trump, played with unnerving skill by veteran Irish actor Brendan Gleeson. With his chin jutting out, teeth bared, heaving and hating, Trump is more monster than man. But Gleeson isn't creating a caricature. He captures the essence of the man: brutal, narcissistic, deluded, ignorant, but too wily to be underestimated. Trump, who enters in the second episode, is like a steamroller with a drunk driver at the wheel. He's unpredictable and sadistically destructive. It's a stellar performance. In one scene, Trump is on the phone to Comey, trying to maneuver him into going easy on the Russian investigation because that compromises the president himself. A bust of Abraham Lincoln sits in the foreground, underlining how far we've strayed from the ideals of the founding fathers. There's also a superbly staged dinner sequence in which Trump and Comey sit together in the White House. Trump tells Comey that he expects loyalty. Comey watches as Trump wolfs down ice cream. He looks aghast and exhausted, as though he can't believe the heart of darkness that he's confronting. Some have criticized the series for being melodramatic, but for me, the high emotion is what made it work. We see Comey with his family, the impact that his decisions have on his children. When Clinton loses the election, one of his 4 daughters says that she can't go to school because she'll face too much hostility. We've seen all of this play out as newspaper headlines, but here we see the human cost. The Comey Rule is a riveting peek into the corridors of power. As I watched, it struck me yet again that decisions affecting humanity at large are so often taken by groups of older white men, and how different it might be if there were more women in charge. I also thought about what it would be like to get an Indian equivalent of this series, where we see what happens in the inner sanctums in New Delhi. Since that's never going to happen, I recommend that you watch The Comey Rule. For most of this year, we've seen films begin small, head straight to streaming, and at least with a few, as I watched, I thought, "Acha hua, izzat bach gayi." If these films had been released in the theatre, they would have bombed. Disney Plus Hotstar multiplex Lootcase isn't one of them. I'm no box office guru, but I think the comedy had real potential to be a sleeper hit. Lootcase is the directorial debut of Rajesh Krishnan, who earlier made the successful TVF series Tripling. Rajesh has co-written the film with Kapil Sawant. Lootcase is about a red suitcase stuffed with 10 crores in 2000 rupee notes. The suitcase is supposed to be delivered to a politician, but a rival gang attacks, police arrives, and the criminals carrying it hurriedly hide it in front of a public bathroom in Mumbai, where it's found by a working-class man, Nandan, who lugs it home. But before doing that, he dutifully shouts at the empty road, "Last time पूछ रहा हूँ, किसका bag है?" This is because Nandan has, as he puts it, sanskar जो बीच में आ जाते हैं. Nandan is a good man. He works diligently at his job in a printing press. He's loving towards his wife and son. He even somehow regularly finds a way to send money from his meager salary to his sister. Nandan is honest. But all that has gotten him is praise from his boss and the grind of a lower middle class life. As Nandan says, हम लोग का खाली ड्यूटी बदलता है, किस्मत नहीं बदलती, until that suitcase falls literally at his feet. But you know what they say, be careful what you wish for. Lootcase has a stellar script. Rajesh and couple find the humor in ordinary lives. So Nandan and his wife Lata, who we're told is the daughter of a pujari, use Chinese dishes as a code for sex. In one scene, she opens the door for him in a red negligee and says, "Aaj maine ghar mein hi Chinese banaya, Manchurian lung fung rice." It's hilarious. As are the lines of the film's stand-out character, Mafia Don Bala, played with supreme style by Vijay Raj. Bala plans his dirty deeds while wearing impeccably tailored suits and watching National Geographic. He believes that there is much to be learned from animals since they also live and function in a jungle, and he refers to animals by their scientific classifications. So he casually drops names like Crocodile noctilius, which is of course the crocodile, and Apiciros melampus, which is the impala. His goons stand around looking stumped. Bala is a man with taste and keen appreciation for language. Vijay revels in the paradox between his refined sensibility and his ruthless job. The acting is bang on across the board. Kunal Khemu and Rasika Duggal, both talented actors who've never gotten the space they deserve in mainstream cinema, are very good as Nandan and Lata. Ranveer Shore is solid as Kolte, the trigger-happy crime branch officer who's assigned by the MLA to find the suitcase. And Gajraj Rao as the MLA gives a whole new meaning to manipulative. He's effortlessly and hysterically oily. In one scene, he asks someone on the phone what he is doing, but then cuts him short with, "Courtesy के लिए पूछ रहा हूँ, मुझे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता." I laughed out loud. I want to use that in life sometime. Rajesh and couple create a theatre of the absurd in which greedy, corrupt men try to outwit each other. And in the midst of this is Nandan, who represents all of us. His dreams are so modest that even when he has 10 crore, he keeps a strict account of where he's spending it and manages only to get through some 84,000. Which reminded me of Anurag Kashyap's film Choked, in which a bank clerk finds cash gushing through her kitchen pipe. Her big splurge is curtains and cushion covers. Underneath the humor, the film locates the frustration and exhaustion of good people like Nandan. He lives in an area called Azad Nagar, but his life is confined by his income. So when he first sits down with the suitcase of cash, he weeps and says, "Kidhar tha re tu?" It's very funny, but there's also a hint of sadness. Nandan hugs the cash like Sridevi's character Kajal was hugging money in the 1997 film Judai after she sold her husband to a rich woman. Of course, the bigger tragedy is that these people believe that their problems are over, but they've only just begun. Lootcase couches its life lessons in jokes that come furiously and almost always land. You can watch the film on Disney Plus Hotstar VIP. My third recommendation is Amazon original Halal love story on Amazon Prime. One of the great joys of streaming platforms is that they've enabled us to discover cinema beyond Bollywood. My current favorite is Malayalam cinema. Halal Love Story is the second film of Zakaria Mohammed, who earlier made the lovely Sudani from Nigeria. Halal Love Story is a warm and witty meditation on cinema and faith, on what is halal, meaning permissible or lawful in the Quran, and what is haram, meaning impure. The story revolves around a film being made by members of a Muslim group. These are deeply religious men, and they want to ensure that their film is 100% halal, something that devout Muslims can see. The story is set in the early 2000s. In the opening sequence of the film, the horrific footage of airplanes flying into the World Trade Center in New York plays out on a television set. we immediately understand that these people live in a world of increasing Islamophobia. Being Muslim carries a burden. But Zakaria and his co-writers Muhsin Parari and Ashif Kakodi aren't interested in easy sermonizing or anger. They take a humane approach, presenting a community without judgment, and their strongest weapon is humor. Making movies is tricky business. The members might want to make a film that is halal, but showbiz takes them down paths that are a little less pure. They hire a director who drinks and smokes. Their first meeting is in a bar called Paradise. The makers juice these delicious clashes of faith, art, and life. Things get more complex when a real-life husband and wife, Sharif and Sohara, are cast as the hero and heroine. Sharif, who does street theatre, thinks of himself as a thespian, but it turns out that his wife is a natural. She's the one with the real talent. Indrajit Sukumaran and Grace Anthony are wonderful in these roles. He hams with skill but never allows his character to slip into caricature. Anthony, who you might recognize from Kumbalangi Nights, portrays Sohara's unhappiness without melodrama. She's lovely. The always terrific Parvati Thirivotu shows up as an acting coach, but the scene stealer is Shobin Shahir, playing a perfectionist sound recordist. His diva-ness is hilarious. Halal Love Story isn't as seamless as Sudani from Nigeria. The tonality of the film shifts a little abruptly in the second half, but this film is propelled by an inherent goodness. Zakaria allows us to come to our own conclusions about what we see and gently nudges us to find our own interpretations of haram and halal. Given the shrill negativity in the world at large, this is sweet relief. And my discovery for the week is a short film on ZEE5, Nagraj Manjule's Pavsacha Nibandh, which in Marathi means an essay on rain. I think Nagraj is one of the most exciting directors working today. His films, Fandri and Sairat among them, force you to confront the horrors of caste and poverty in this country. But he brings the political home through the personal. His gaze is unflinching but also humane. Pavsacha Nibandh is, like most of Nagraj's work, located in a small village in Maharashtra. The monsoon has rolled in like an angry army. The film begins with a school teacher assigning homework to his students. They have to write an essay on the rain. The teacher warns them that if they don't do it, they will be insulting nature's beauty. But one of his students, Raja, doesn't have the luxury of appreciating the magic of the downpour. His father lies drunk in the market. Water is pouring into their ramshackle hut. There's little to eat. Pavsacha Nibandh is a simple story that takes place over one day. Nagraj, who also wrote it, weaves in irony, a simmering anger, and black humor. At one point, Raja is placing utensils around the house for the water dripping in from the roof. We see a close-up of a cup placed in front of photos of gods, but no one comes to the rescue. This family has to fend for itself. The film has gorgeous visuals, DOP Sudhakar Reddy, which contrasts sharply with the hardship the characters are enduring. And the narrative is enhanced by stunning sound design by Avinash Sonwane, which immerses you in the deluge. This is first-class storytelling, and again, I assure you, reading subtitles doesn't get in the way. That wraps up our show. Do tell us in the comments below if you found the binge list useful. Are there any shows that you recommend that I watch, and how can we serve you better? I'll see you next week with more on the binge list. You can watch all these shows and movies with the Tata Sky Binge subscription. To know more, search for Tata Sky Binge or click on the link in the description below.